stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. On stage, on stage with Jim and Tom. On stage with Jim and Tom. On stage with Jim and Tom. Tom and Jim.
Tonight, we welcome the collective known as the Love Dimension to the stage of the Phoenix Theater. They describe themselves as an ever-expanding, sacred, psychedelic rock and roll music group that creates sonic architecture for the benefit of all sentient beings across the multiverse. Tonight, we'll talk about exactly what that means, and later they'll play us a set of music. Please welcome to the program, the Love Dimension.
Hello.
Hi.
Hola.
This band started its journey in 2008 and has continued to evolve ever since. I understand that it was founded when this man, Jimmy Diaz, was training to become a shamanic healer.
I was.
Can you please tell us what that is?
Yeah, when I first moved to California, I'm originally from the East Coast. I came out here and studied at a few different schools. I was studying hypnotherapy as well, like hypnotherapy, and through that, somebody's like, oh, do you know this about this shamanic school? Like, oh, you should go there, and I went there.
What attracted you to hypnotherapy to begin with?
You know, it's interesting. So when I was still living in Boston, I was kind of just thinking like, oh, you know, I want to do something else besides these different day jobs at offices and everything. And the article I read was talking about like, oh, if you like being in trance states and being different states of consciousness, like this might be for you. I'm like, that does sound cool. Went there and learned a lot of great stuff. And when you're going through training to become a healer, you're really just healing yourself the whole time in the classes and like working with everybody else and working with the teachers or the students. You know, the teachers will usually do, hey, let's do a demonstration. Who wants to volunteer and work on something? And then we you break off and you practice and practice the techniques with other people.
So what is a trance state exactly?
A trance state is like an altered state of consciousness, but a good way to think of it is just, you think of sports players when they're in the zone, or musicians or artists when they're just kind of like really tuned in. But on a brain level, it's when you lower your brainwave frequencies to, I think it's the theta state or something, but it's a certain brainwave state that you get into a trance. And that's why I think that's why dance music, electronic dance music is really popular, and raves and Burning Man is because the beats per minute that they're doing is the same tempo as like a shaman would do the drumming, or like Native American drumming. They're
the period of the wave or something like that.
Well, just the beat. It's just like the beats per minute is about the same. Like I don't know, it's like 140 at like minimum or something. Yeah, and so it then trains the brain waves. Like you kind of like your brain waves start going like, okay, I'm tuning in and like kind of waving with this. So yeah, I mean that, and then the hypnotherapy training too is all about getting into a more relaxed state of consciousness. And they would talk about in the school, like, okay, so if you're trying to explain this to somebody, give them examples like when you go to a movie and you're just like entranced by the movie, and then when it's over, you're like, oh, where am I? You kind of it takes you a while. You become disoriented, or like highway hypnosis when you're driving and you miss your exit, like, oh my God, I just missed the exit. That's like a form of hypnosis, and so most people are in a hypnotic state all the time, or they get hypnotized by TV. Politicians use a lot of hypnotic language where they use alliteration and a lot of their wording and the way they pace it. They'll also triggering people's emotional state is a way to get somebody into a hypnotic state. Confusion, like those faith healers when they like dip somebody's head back like really fast, it swishes the brain fluids around, and then it causes a confusion, and you automatically go into that trance state. So that's like a way they will like do that to get people like you're healed. And
so can you hypnotize people now?
Yeah, I haven't really been doing it.
He hypnotized all of us. That's why we're in the band.
However, I still smoke.
That's what Sean said.
I haven't really been doing it the last year or so as much. I've been focusing more on music, but for a while I was kind of seeing people on a regular basis and had a couple of different offices around San Francisco. I do phone sessions sometimes, and
you got to help me quit smoking.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you really want to do it, there's a whole thing. It's like a smoking cessation thing.
That's a good question, though. Like, what would a person call you to have healed? Like, I think that's a new term to a lot of people who might be listening.
I would say it's kind of working at an energy level, or like kind of quantum level. You're you're really trying to get to the root, like energy pattern, and like almost like reprogram it, like you're reprogramming a computer or something, and get into the subconscious mind. There's a lot of patterns or limiting beliefs or things that get programmed in there when we're young, like up until age of 7, we're like sponges, and we just pick up things like, a parent or a teacher could say something like, you're stupid or something, and then, you become an adult and you just think you're stupid, and that stuff gets kind of programmed in there. And I feel like doing hypnotherapy or any kind of shamanic work or there's all kinds of healing modalities out there now, and any of them is really just trying to get to the core of what the real issue is, or the real like unresolved emotion. It's usually like an emotion that's kind of like, I'm sure everybody's at some point
kind of like a deep-seated insecurity, maybe?
Like, from the shamanic perspective, when there's a trauma, they say it's like there's a soul fragmentation. So it's like a piece of your soul, or like energy breaks off and gets lost in like the space-time continuum. So like a shamanic journey, they go into non-ordinary reality, like, and go find that soul part, bring it back. So that's like a technique. And the cool thing was the teacher I studied with, they like one teacher, she called it applied shamanism, and kind of made it more modern. Be like, look, you can look at it like this. It's just a metaphor. And so, when you have a dream, if you're doing dream work, it's just a metaphor for something. And so when you're like doing that, like it's the same thing with any past life work or past life regression, there's like, you can believe it or not, it doesn't matter. It's like what it represents. And if it helps you and you feel better afterwards and you kind of have some understanding, have a shift in your consciousness, then that's the most important thing. And I think also with any kind of healing work too, it's just the intention. That's the biggest part of it. This one school I studied at, the teacher had brought this one shaman from South America from somewhere to Utah, and they just wanted to like model him and study like, what is he doing? And they had one guy who he was like trying to work with this guy for healing type of cancer. And so like later on they interviewed him, and he was doing all this stuff like the rattle shaking and doing all the stuff, so he said he's like, well, so when did the healing occur? He's like, oh, the healing occurred as soon as I set the intention. All the other stuff was just moving energy around. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. So that's really the most important part of it, setting the intention, and then for people that they want to change too, because they can go back to the same patterns if they choose to.
And how did going down that road of study lead to this band?
So this was the funny thing, was when I was doing that healing training, I thought like, okay, I'm just going to be a healer and that's it. I'm done with music. And I sold all my gear. I sold this like bass that I had, like that I used to play in bands in Boston. And it was like, I really wish I didn't sell that bass. But yeah, so a bass, a guitar, all these pedals and all this stuff. And I was just like, yeah, that was my past life. Moving on. And so during the hypnotherapy training, I remember the teacher was doing a session with one of the students, and the student was he was doing dream work, and his dream was that he was like in a dream with his dad, and his dad was trying to get him to join his construction company, and he was like, you know what, I don't want to work for you, Dad. I just want to do music. And I just remember in that moment, I was like, oh, and it felt like a boomerang hit me in the back of the head. I was like, oh, I have to do music. I can't not do music. What am I doing?
The band has like 10 years of releases, so we're not going to go into all of them.
Yeah.
But I think we could talk a little bit about Acceptance, because that's your most recently released piece.
That EP, Acceptance, a big theme throughout, like a lot of the songs is kind of like death, and which is funny because I was watching a previous episode. I think it was with Sam Chase, and you guys were like talking about death, and it's like, oh. So I definitely like understood what he was saying.
It's just always been something that's been in the back of my head, and I feel like ever since I was a little kid, I was a really bad sleeper, and I couldn't ever get to sleep, and a lot of that was because these thoughts would come into my head about the day that my parents would die.
And just thinking about mortality and how it's like anything can happen at any time, and you just have to really be present, and so the acceptance part is that when you accept where you are, that from that place and come to the present moment, you can change things, but you have to accept, okay, well, I'm here. This is where I'm starting. This is the starting point. But if you're just like, oh, this sucks, and you're like just not accepting what's actually what is, then you're not going to be able to change.
Jimmy, you once used an analogy about like what you're trying to do for people that listen to this. You said that you want it to be a lighthouse.
Oh yeah. So that's based on the song "Lighthouse of Your Mind," and that's not necessarily only about the music, but just as a being, just you can't change anybody else. Like, we can only change ourselves. And so all you can really do is kind of light yourself up, be yourself as much as possible, and create this lighthouse so other people can find their way. And then when they just kind of seeing like, okay, you can light up the path for people. You can point the way. You can say, hey, this is the way, but it's up to them to go that way or not. And so that's kind of what that was about. And I feel like being a lighthouse is kind of like just be the best person you can be your best self.
One other thing I'll say before we kind of work towards a conclusion is one of the things that really drove you to this project, you mentioned, is that this is a vehicle not for just one-on-one healing, but for something else. Could you kind of go into that a little bit?
Sure.
I think it's like a really good intention that you set for this music.
Yeah, and that was something when I was studying the healing work, and I was doing one-on-one healing sessions with people and work with people, and that's something I might still do. I've kind of been taking a break the past year or so, but I saw music as a way to touch a lot of people's hearts, and at the same time, and music's really healing for people. It changes their emotional state, and if somebody's in a bad mood, you can listen to something and it can kind of make you feel better, or just it can be comforting. And I just saw the power in music, and the power in musicians and artists and all kinds of creative people to like really change the emotional state of people and have an effect in the world. And so much of this world is affected by different kinds of art. And so I just felt like you look at people like Bob Marley or John Lennon or Jim Morrison or these different people that are kind of like music shamans in a way. They get all these people together, and everybody has this experience together. They go on a journey together, and so
they share a world.
Yeah, they share a world. That was cool when you were talking about that, because as a band too, it's like we are creating a world. We're creating an energetic field. We're electromagnetic beings, and we're playing through electrical and like amps and things like that, and that we create that space, and we invite the audience in, and if they like it, they give us energy back.
You collectively lift the mood of a room, and that's powerful to you.
I see that's possible, and
or that's a goal that you strive for. You see, the musical shamans that you mentioned earlier, and you see that as like that concept at its like highest form.
Yeah, that's I feel like that is like one of the ultimate goals, is just to just give what you have, like whatever it is you can share of yourself, whether music or something else, and if it helps people, or again touches their heart somehow, or they're affected by it, or they hear a lyric or hear a part of a song and it just reminds them of something, or just that's all I can really ask for. And I think that's the most important part of doing this thing. Sometimes I know for myself I get wrapped up in a lot of the stuff that's not as fun, and the business side and all the things that come with it. And here actually talking to you right now about this, it's reminding me like, oh yeah, I just gotta keep coming back to what's really important, and everything else works out, eventually, and just got to keep coming back to that core reason.
I think that's the best way that we can wrap up the episode. This is a band, we had some of the other members on when Down Dirty Shake came on, and so that's how you guys got on our radar, and I'm glad that you did, because it's been really fun to listen to your music and learn about what you put into it. So we appreciate you joining us tonight. And now people should get ready, because the music of the Love Dimension is next. Stick around for that. Thanks again for joining us.
Cool. Thanks. All right.
Of you. to live this life into which you are born. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. You drove so far to be, and you're on your way. It's hard to be yourself We were back